Okay, we'll now go back into the budget workshop session. Director Lloyd had a request to go back to the PowerPoint and cover the television district. Here we go.
Okay, are you ready?
We are
All
ready.
right. So I'm open it up for your questions and your discussion then. The TV district prepared in the budget does not include a calculation for the 2 cents. The beginning fund balance going into next year is estimated to be about $632,000. It would decline to close to $250,000 by the end of the year if there's not a tax rate increase. So open for your direction.
Okay, Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. Yeah, I know we've been taking from it. We lowered it, and we've been fooling with it for many years. I understand that. But if it's the 2 cents equals 400,000, since we do have this extra money, why can't we just take it and put it in instead of, asking people this time to come up with it?
Do you mean a reduction in the general fund tax rate?
Well, can't we just transfer, use
No.
the, what's the word I'm looking for, that
The district,
the state allows us, the flexibility?
yeah, it is
can put
not
in-
written. Yep, the flexibility language
Yeah.
is from another source of funds back to the general fund, but it is not the other way. In fact, there was a library district was one that was discussed at the state level in legal opinions.
So there's no way we can put money into it except by raising taxes. Well, that doesn't sound fair.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did you?
yeah. Madam Chairman, Supervisor Angus, I think what Coral's referring to is that districts are created for a purpose. They're a funding district, and to put general fund money into districts, I think we would need to get an attorney opinion on that, because I don't think it's allowed. You can't utilize general fund monies. This issue was the one that Coral was mentioning. You can't use general fund monies to augment the library district. I don't think you can use general fund monies to augment any district. But that we could certainly ask and find out.
Isn't the flexibility language says it can use, and I'm not even talking about general fund, so another special and move it from there? I mean, it seemed a little bit more open than just taking out. But, maybe that is a AG opinion that we need to get, or maybe Ryan has a...
Yeah, the information that I have is under Senate Bill 1684 is what it's referring to. It states, if you don't mind me reading this, that the county flexibility language as session law allows counties under 250,000 persons to use up to $1,250,000 of any source of county revenue, including countywide special district funds, to meet any county fiscal obligation. And then counties are required to report the information to the JLBC if we've utilized the language.
And so you interpret that as that we can't take from one district and put into another district?
Right, that it's not a session law for districts, but for counties.
Okay, well, I'll do a little, we have a little time on that.
Yeah, we do.
That last year?
That was actually from this year.
Supervisor Johnson, go ahead.
while we're on the tax increase, the 2% that's proposed, that doesn't bring us up to where we should be. Is that correct?
Madam Chairman.
2 cents.
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, I believe at one time, according to Yvonne, she texted me, at one time the tax rate was 0.0867, and then it was lowered to the 2. And what we're asking for is, or what we're proposing to the board is to add 2 cents. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
2 cents onto the
To the 4
tax
cents.
rate, and that would only be sufficient to cover the existing expenses. It wouldn't allow for any expansion or additional areas to be developed for TV service.
Didn't we decide last time that we couldn't do that because we don't know? I mean, was
Well,
that
we
even in
didn't.
that even in discussion that we were gonna expand?
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Angus, that's going to be you all set the tax rate, of course, and you could set a tax rate that would allow expansion to, expanding TV services to other areas. There's a lot of areas that don't have TV service. I asked Yvonne probably a very unfair question. I said, if we did expand, we would do it incrementally and in small areas at a time. And if you did increase the tax levy rate in the TV district to be able to do that, you'd probably be looking at a nominal increase and then use that money to expand one specific area. Once that's been expanded to, you would move to another area and use the same funds, and to another area and another area. And I said, what would you envision, Yvonne, roughly, just off the top of your head, a wild number to be able to enter into this expansion? Just on a small scale. And she said, probably we would need to increase our levy rate to about 7.5 cents. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Madam Chair, my question is, will this additional 2 cents cover the operations going forward of the TV district, or is it still going to be running it at some kind of a deficit?
Supervisor Johnson, 2 cents should cover the current deficit under the current level of service.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the TV district? Seeing none, Coral, we can go forward. Do you have anything else?
I thought, well, I may as well pause. Before you start with the elected officials, just in response to your question on whether or not there was a CSA increase, it's our understanding that there had previously been a discussion that there could have been a possible increase. We're currently paying them $59,468, and that is actually the amount that they came back with. So the amount that we had preliminarily put in there was $61,753, so it's $2,200 higher, and we will adjust that back off in the tentative budget.
But it's separate from the building,
Yes,
because that was 2 items.
yes,
Okay, but has that gone up?
no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll now go on to our elected officials, and we'll start with our sheriff. Sheriff Schuster, do you have any comments that you'd like to bring to us?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, distinguished members of the board. Mr. Hendricks, hate to see you go. You've been fantastic for us. Thank you. Madam Clerk, it's nice to see you. I'm going to be very brief. We had asked, as the Sheriff's Office, for an incremental increase again this year based on our 10-year plan. We have recognized quite a bit of growth since I took office. This is now my 4th budget hearing, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your support for law enforcement. Before I go on, though, I do definitely want I guess give it a shout out to Ms. Coral and her staff. They've been tremendous. They have made my job a lot easier. It's difficult when we're dealing with the budget, and we always try and do our best to stay within that budget. The point I want to bring out is while we agree that this year is unknown, we're in unknown territory, I have agreed to pull out all of the incentives that we were asking for, but I want to share this with you. When I took office in 2017, I took over a flailing ship. We had 18 deputy positions that were vacant. In an agency our size, that's roughly 30%. The pay was atrocious, the morale was atrocious, so I came to you and I expressed the need repeatedly. And I'm sure you got sick of hearing me, but that's why I took this position, because I believe in law enforcement. I believe in mandated service, and I believe the citizens of Mojave County not only expect, but they deserve top-notch law enforcement. That has been my aim from day one. So now we fast forward. We went from 18 openings to adding 6 additional deputy positions. That's 24. 23 of those have been filled. Our turnover is non-existent, our retention is incredible, and for the first time in my 30 years with Mojave County, we are actively taking laterals from local surrounding agencies. That's instant experience, that is at no cost to the taxpayers for that training, that $100,000 that I preached for each individual we send to the academy. So we've done tremendous things. Well, how do we gauge the success? Well, I gauge it because we filled the positions. That's wonderful. I gauge it because our staff is doing what we ask of them. They're respectful, they're courteous at all times, they're making a difference, they're involved more than ever with the community. So now let's talk about criminal statistics. Since the day I took office till today, our crime in Mojave County is dramatically decreased. Burglaries are down close to 30%, thefts are down. What we're doing is working. Can you imagine what we can accomplish when we have the staffing that I've been requesting? So for this budget year, I will step back. I'm not going to ask for a penny, but I would put the onus on the board and say, if you think, after you dissect the budget, that there are areas that are less important, if you feel there are areas where money could be found, I would be very pleased to accept an additional $700,000 to accomplish year 2 of our plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Angus?
I want to thank you. You know, we've had some difficult years, and I'm glad you made it through and did what you said you were going to do, and we do. You made a statement that our crime is down. Do you have any statistics of how that compares with the cities? Is crime down all over, even the cities?
Supervisor Angus, I'll find out. I track the Sheriff's Office statistics. We do it on a monthly basis. We have a criteria of about 40 different crimes. Right now, our domestic violences are up tremendously. I think it's a lock-in mentality. People are really struggling. We've had, I think, 4 or 5 homicides. I believe it's 5 in the last 2 weeks. An officer-involved shooting yesterday. So things are going haywire, but know that the men and women in gray are holding that line, and they're there for you and the people of Mojave County. I'm very proud of them, and I'm proud of what we've done. So.
And what about the jail?
Jail, we're doing much better in the jail. Again, taking office with 40 openings was less than awe-inspiring. We are down to roughly 20 openings. The big thing, the big accomplishment that you did, this board, was fixing the starting pay scale. You have to attract employees if you look to improve and retain. What we were paying prior to 2017 was atrocious. And why would anyone want to work in a facility like our jail, where we ask them to look at it as a career and they can make more pumping gas or flipping burgers? So we fixed that, and that's a wonderful thing. Thank you for your partnership. The only concern I have this year in the jail, I think our budget looks really, really good. It's always a concern when you talk about health care and food costs, because there's that unknown. We may have enough, and you may see me 9 months from now if things get out of control, because that you just don't know. People come in, they need treatment. We've got to give them treatment.
Right. Did they change that thing about access, taking them off access when they get arrested?
No, they're still on access. We go after every nickel. We have actually a program in place where when we get bills from the hospital, we dissect that bill to ensure what we should be paying and what we shouldn't be paying. So our staff is very good at that. It's just unfortunate the cost of health care in that facility is extreme.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, I don't see our county attorney here, so we'll go on now to Superior Court Judge Chuck Gertler. Who's never at a loss of words. The board would like to see you happy, so tell us what you need. Maybe not.
May it please the chair, board members, council, staff, Manager Hendricks, I would like to at least start out with compliments County Manager Hendricks, Coral and Judy and Sonia. They have been absolutely fantastic to work with. The budget process was again exceptional this year. They have been fantastic with respect to keeping us up to date as this process has gone on and as the pandemic has affected everyone's lives. We went into this and I really didn't have many prepared things to state because the word we had was that, we're looking good revenue-wise. We have the money to turn around and do the things that we've agreed to in the budget process. So I didn't anticipate having to come up here and actually, sit there and argue for a number of the overdue things that we have to have in order to simply continue to work and make ends meet. It's well documented what we're going to have to deal with in the court system given the pandemic. Fortunately, your court system here in this county remained more open than virtually any county in the state of Arizona. And we did it through cooperation with respect to the county attorney's office, with respect to the defense organizations, with respect to the fantastic people that we have in the clerk's office and in IT. The IT department in the clerk's office, in conjunction with our judges and the county attorney's office, went to virtual grand jury proceedings. I'm not sure if we're the first in the nation. We certainly are one of the first courts to do so. Vice Chief Justice Timmer referred the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Alabama to me because they want to duplicate our system. Pam Gates, the presiding judge of the Civil Division in Maricopa County, is on a nationwide committee that is looking at how to complete jury services virtual. She referred the New Jersey Supreme Court to us. We have had the states of Texas, Vermont, and other states that are contacting us to find out how have we been able to continue to do grand jury when no one else in the nation has pretty much been able to do so. It's because we have an IT staff and a clerk staff that is phenomenal. Bottom line. And it's unfortunate that I didn't take steps like some of the other departments have done over the years. The hot jobs. The court didn't come flying forward and do 5% raises with hot jobs. Maybe I should have. Maybe it's a shame on me. The sheriff did a fantastic job and increased the salaries for his people. I didn't go through that same process. I guess shame on me. Now I'm looking at losing detention staff because the state's paying their detention staff more. The sheriff's paying their jail staff more. It's really hard to stomach having court employees being the bastard stepchildren in the county. You reference the word parity. I didn't utilize the word parity when we put together our initial budget requests. Our people have had full-time positions with job duties And then lo and behold, with respect to the finance people that we're seeking to increase and bring on par, I received a 2.5 page single-space memo outlining all of the things that the finance department used to do that now has our divisions do. Our IT department, our court administration, our probation. I'll be more than happy to provide that to you. I didn't think I would have to go that far, but I guess if that's what I need to do, fine, I will provide that to you. You know, our clerk finance people, just as an example, it's not just simply, you know, running the finances with respect to the general fund. And we have requirements with respect to fines, fees. We have to remit monies to the state's general fund. We have to remit monies to the Department of Transportation, clean elections. You know, when people pay fines, that gets divvied up across the state. It's more complex than you simply think. It's not, you can't necessarily compare apples and oranges. In other words, with some things that our finance department does for the county is not the same as what our finance department does with respect to the clerk's office. You know, the National Center for State Court recently did a nationwide webinar, and they praised Mojave County with respect to where we're going, you know, with the virtual juries. And we haven't stopped with the grand jury. You know, tomorrow we're going to be running a test with respect to trying to do virtual jury selection for jury trials. You know, and other states are now looking at what we're doing. In fact, the statewide committee is looking at participating in our trial run tomorrow. And this can be a significant budget savings. If we're able to turn around and impanel juries virtually, you know, we're not going to have to pay them the fee for coming to the court for their appearance fee. And I have a very grave concern with respect to the court's budget and the mandated budget, because we have 200 jury trials that are calendared right now. We have a significant backlog of criminal jury trials that we're going to have to work through. It is so significant that I'm having to move another judge that primarily has a civil and a probate assignment over to the criminal assignment in order to handle the backlog. And unfortunately, he cannot turn around and do jury trials because his courtroom is not large enough to meet the social distancing requirements that we have. I'm going to have to take his case assignment and move that off to other divisions. You know, there are significant issues that we're going to be looking at, and I anticipate that we're going to have jury trial after jury trial after jury trial. And if we don't take these technological steps, we'll be coming back to you quite soon asking for more money in our mandated budget. Because people have been sitting in custody waiting for a jury trial, and the Supreme Court has not allowed us to do those, which is obviously appropriate given the safety concerns. We've got people that are out of custody that are not sitting in the jail that are waiting for jury trials. I've had 3 significant civil jury trials that I have had to suspend, and now I'm going to have to tell those folks, I'm sorry, but you're probably not going to be able to get that civil jury trial completed this year because criminal cases take a priority and we have that many of a backlog. You know, we have a lot of significant issues that we're going to be dealing with this year. We have taken phenomenal steps that has gained us nationwide attention for the steps that we've taken. And I understand and appreciate the comments with respect to, you know, people are out of work. I mean, we see that, we hear that, we're going to have court cases as a result of that. There's a grave concern with respect to people that aren't able to pay rent or aren't able to pay their mortgages and trying to stop trustee sales. We anticipate that we're going to have a surge in filings. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I mean, some of our pay is so poor that one of our requests is to bring people up to the minimum wage. Now, the clerk has an open position. We would think that we would have, you know, hundreds of people applying for this open position because people are out of work. We've had 5 people apply for an open position because we pay so poorly. In good economic years, we never pay what the private sector pays, and that's why we can't get employees. Now we're in a tough economic situation, and people are out of work, and you're looking at our folks and saying, why are you looking at potential pay increases? Well, what has happened is during bad economic times, we cut positions, we cut employees. We told existing employees, we still got to do that work. You got to take on other people's work. And they've done that, and they've done that without complaint. And yes, we have had some raises over the years, but we have not had raises that meet what the public sector was paying, and we have not had raises that even remotely come close to competing with other counties. And when you're talking public safety, like the sheriff, the only people that he has to compete with are other counties and other city law enforcement. Same thing with probation. That's what we have to turn around and look to, because there isn't private sector positions that equate to the law enforcement duties that they have. And when it's a good economy, we can't get probation officers because we can't compete with Yavapai. We can't compete with Coconino. We lose people to those counties because they pay greater. You know, to be frank with you, your procurement director is a perfect example. Here's a very talented lady. She started in the court system. She couldn't get a raise. So she moved to another position in the county to get a raise. Now she's the procurement director. That's what we're dealing with. That is what we're dealing with. If you folks want to pay private sector, I would suggest when the economy is good, then do a study and find out what you're paying. We probably wouldn't be having some of these issues if we paid private sector pay when the economy is good.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
You can, but let's let the judge finish his presentation.
I'd be more than
please.
happy to take questions.
If you're ready, go ahead, Supervisor.
Well, I'm surprised that of your tone, and obviously this is aimed at me because I'm the only one who made mention of the word parity. All this other stuff I didn't say. I just used the word parity on certain jobs. So I really don't understand the attitude that you're showing right now. I know you're passionate. I know you're standing, you know, you want the best for your departments. I get it. But I asked a question, and I'm a little put off at your tone towards this board. And I'm just going to say that, because in the past we have helped, and you know, we had this courthouse, and we've done everything that we've been asked. And I asked a question. And that's all I did, was ask a question on behalf of the taxpayers. And I am very surprised at your tone, because I'm taking it that you're aiming it at me.
I'm not aiming it at anyone.
Well, yeah, no one else said anything, Judge, except me. And I saw you stewing that back there. I asked a question on behalf of the taxpayers, and this is not what I expected back. I mean, you could have come up here and said exactly and where the money is, and I just, you know, I find it that you're trying to get this, but yet you're lecturing us on it, and that is
Well, from
disturbing.
what you told me, you weren't going to pass any of our
That's
requests.
not what I said.
That
is not what I said.
Well, I
Supervisor
took it
Angus.
that way, number one.
Well, if
And
you'd
number
asked that
two,
question
you
when first started-
stated to me, you're going to have to argue and justify.
The parity. That was the
Right.
only word I used, the parity thing. Anyway, I'm done.
Thank you, and you can continue.
No, I think I've made my
Presentation.
point.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions of the judge? I
Thank you.
certainly don't. Thank you very much for letting us know how you feel. Okay, going on, Clerk of Superior Court, I don't believe is here. The Recorder's Office, Christy Blair.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Christy.
I'm the bearer of good news.
Excellent.
Recorder's office has, revenues have exceeded expenditures, and we're happy to contribute to the general fund. So my request, in the past, we have always hired employees within the budget. And I'm asking for specific employees to be compensated for their education and experience and placed where they belong rather than where the budget happened to place them. So it's a small request, I think, with the revenues that we have generated. And so we're happy to contribute. So that's good news. And so I'll answer any questions, but that's all I have.
That is excellent news, and we appreciate it very much.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions of the county recorder? All right, you get a pass.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I see our smiling assessor in the audience. Would you like to say a word or two?
Thank you for having me up here. Actually, I'm just here for any questions you might have. We're not asking for anything much more than going forward with some technology that I think our county is ready for. We've had a backlog in our titles. I believe our market's going to continue to excel despite the COVID, and I think this is the right time to add a little bit more technology to our base and to be more efficient.
Efficiency is good.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Anybody have questions for the assessor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody here from the treasurer's office that would like to speak? I don't see Cindy here, but... No comments, Madam Chair. All righty. There's no one here from the Justice of the Peace or any constables, so I'll open it up to department heads, directors. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and speak? Mr. Walsh?
Enter the gun.
Development Services.
Chairman Bishop, I'd just like to answer Supervisor Johnson's question, if I may.
Well, good luck.
I believe, and Supervisor Johnson, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're referring to the new plans examiner position that we have proposed as a new initiative. We have that in the budget, basically to have it there if our permits, our plans being taken in exceeds a certain number. So we, as a department, we're shooting for a 5-day turnaround on plan review. And what we've been able to see with our plans examiners, if we get about 50 plans per plans examiner a month, we're able to maintain that 5-day turnaround. If they start going over that, or if the complexity of the plans increases, if we see more commercial plans than that, then those reviews take a little bit longer. So what we're proposing with this new initiative is, if we reach a point in the future, in this budget year, that we're seeing more than 50 plans per plans examiner coming in, we'd have, and over a couple month period, to be able to see that that's a sustained growth, then we would open that position. But basically what this does is it funds it in the budget, but it won't actually be utilized until we reach that threshold.
Okay, Supervisor Johnson, did that answer your question?
It asks a question that answers a question, I guess, that I misspoke on the question. My question was on the economic development. They're asking for another position in a vehicle, but the position isn't open until January, and I believe they need that position now. I was curious why we weren't filling it now.
Okay, Tammy Ersenbach is moving toward the podium to try to answer that question. Tammy, were you able to hear the question, or do you need it repeated?
I did hear the question, but I don't have an answer. I requested for a full-time person, so I don't have an answer.
You have any other comments, Supervisor Johnson?
Well, I guess my comment would be, why did Ms. Lloyd not fill this position until January?
Is it part-time? Is that what I don't know what you've done.
So we put it into the budget for funding for half of the year, and we've got it in for posting it then. I mean, it would take that long to get it filled, essentially. If we posted this, the budget would be approved. It's just a calculation. So the budget would be approved in August. If it were approved, positions posted, it could be up to December, January before she could fill it. So rather than have an impact this year at the time, when calculating the whole budget package, we were trying to find ways of basically reducing impacts to this year in case we ended up in a poor financial position, if that's really the reasons overall of getting to that final amount.
I can't follow that kind of logic at all, Ms. Lloyd, but if it goes in next year's budget, and obviously with the results that we're seeing from economic development, I would think the earlier we got out to hire somebody, the better off we would be. If we wait till December, she's going an awful long time without any help. That was the only question I had on that part anyway. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chairman?
Mr. Hendricks.
Supervisor Johnson makes a good point. I guess it's the engineer in me didn't take off my shoes and socks to count how many months we've got, and we certainly could put that position in for 3/4 of a year. But because the budget is going to get approved till August, we don't start the hiring process until we have an approved budget. So we could certainly put that in for a higher amount if that's what supervisor, and that does make sense to me, and that would be my recommendation. So for direction to the finance, I believe they put the half year at my request. I can just change that request and have them put it in for 3/4 of a year. Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. I appreciate your insight.
And my comment is I want to just say thank you. With the situation where it is now, we need to help the local businesses as well as the future ones looking to come in, and so that would be a benefit to them as well. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Any other questions?
Supervisor Johnson, go ahead.
I agree partly with Manager Hendricks, but the budget we adopt, it still starts at what, July 1st? Shouldn't we be opening it up on July 1st? I mean, obviously we're not going to fill it. I understand what he says, the funding position. The money's not going to go anywhere no matter what, or if she can't hire anybody. I just thought the sooner she could get on it, the better off we'd be.
I'm sure. Madam Chairman.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's been our practice to open up and hire until we've got an approved budget on any of this, on any of these things, but we can certainly do whatever the board so chooses. If you all wanted to reach into the general fund and tell me to open up now, that's something that we would certainly consider. So it just seems logical, that we would be opening up the positions, and that's what I believe I did consistently last year. Is once we had an approved budget, I held everybody up until we had the approved budget, but that's what I recall. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, Tammy.
And Madam Chairman, let me, I think we made an exception, so I'm not accurate. If you recall on the reconsolidation, I came forward with a special item to the board to open up early prior to board budget adoption. And that's what I would have to do in this particular instance. That's what I would believe I would have to do in this particular instance if we opened it up prior to budget adoption. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Anything else, Supervisor Johnson?
I have other questions if you want to start now, or you still have department heads.
Well, we're still dealing with department heads, so just hang tight for 1 second. And Tim Walsh, since you were up here, I have a question of you before we move on. And what I would like to know is a little bit more about the new zone inspector and the consolidation of the abatement program. I'm very, very interested in going forward with that. So if you could just give a quick summary of that for me and as well as the public.
Chairman Bishop, members of the board, thank you. Yeah, excuse me. What we've done here is working with public health and with the county manager, looked at a way to try and make our code enforcement a little bit more efficient and a little more effective. Currently, and we've looked at this a few different times, and I think we've come up with a bit more of a streamlined and more effective program here than probably what we've presented in the past. Currently, we've got a number of ways to address blight in the county. Public health, they look at household trash, household waste, just kind of stockpiled out in the yard. They also look at surfacing effluent. If the septic tank is flowing septage onto the ground, they're dealing with that. Planning and zoning, we deal with open lot storage. If people are starting to store a bunch of junk on their properties and that, not necessarily trash, but just junk and debris, we'll go after that with a zoning violation. Building, we go after dilapidated buildings, things that are falling apart, nuisance structures, and then environmental quality. We'll go after failing septic systems. So we've got a number of issues that are being dealt with between two different departments. We also involve some of Public Works and their erase division in some of our cleanups. What this program intends to do is to bring as much as we can within one department. This program will bring over the household trash, the household waste that's being accumulated in the yards, and the surfacing effluent, bring that from public health over into development services. The household trash we'll be able to handle with our zoning inspectors. And typically, if we've got a zoning violation that our code enforcement officers are going out on, it usually spills over across different departments. So in this case, we'll be able to send one inspector out rather than us sending somebody out, public health sending somebody out, and public works. So we'll be able to just send our inspectors out for this one on personal property issues. Part of the program too, Landfills currently collects a public health fee at the landfills. And this public health fee is basically $1 per ton, and it's split between building abatement and household trash abatement. What we'll be able to do is bring that in under planning and zoning, and the zoning inspectors will be able to use that in abatement for both household trash and for zoning violations. Up to now, one of the problems that we've had with zoning violations is the inability to be able to abate those properties when we get no reaction out of the owners. So by consolidating the two, we'll have that one abatement fund together that will be used for what it's always been used for with trash, but also now to be able to address zoning violations as well. So all of that, we'll consolidate it all together. What we're looking at is one additional zoning inspector in order to help address the increase in load that will come with consolidating that. So, and that position is actually budget neutral in that with some of the budget adjustments that we've done in zoning, we've been able to make that position available budget neutral. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I can tell you that this is probably the most exciting part of this whole budget process that we've participated in today, to hear that this is finally close to actually happening. It's something that I've been trying to push for at least 3 years, maybe 4. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Walsh? Go ahead, Supervisor Gold.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Tim, I think it's a great idea. I think it'll streamline the operation and we can reduce that backlog of zoning issues that we have and health issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me see, who's out there? Probation. Does anybody from probation want to come and speak? Indigent defense? Public Works, Mr. Lakowski? Here's your opportunity. Going once? Do you have anything you want to share with us, Mr. Lakowski? If not, we'll open it up to the board again for questions, comments. Supervisor Johnson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Obviously, you haven't got my call yet, so they'll call right now. Enterprise Fund. Ms. Lloyd, why are we funding that now? I thought that was just a one-time shot.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Johnson, I didn't hear the first part that you're asking.
The Enterprise Fund, you're moving $100,000 over there. I thought that was a one-time deal we did.
Okay, so this would just be to replenish that. So it was utilized, portions of that was utilized for the signage, I believe this year, that was approved by the board. And now I don't remember what the balance was. So this is
Building permits to cover.
Yep, very good, on one of the economic development pieces. So this would just basically be another two-time, if you will, another one-time to replenish that, so that there would be funding set aside so that if you had an opportunity that came before you as the board, that you could take action on it.
I guess I have a problem with the way we're doing it, but that was all on that.
Okay.
Are we funding building maintenance to keep our buildings safe, or just patching and praying?
Madam Chairman, we might have to get our Public Works Director up here, and I can start off. I believe we've got $800,000 for building maintenance alone, and then we got another $400,000 budgeted for major components that we believe can be classified as capital components to make repairs in the jail. Does that answer your question? As for adequacy, I believe that as our buildings grow, we're adding a new court facility. We're remodeling an existing court facility. We're taking on the new DES building, which is a considerably large building. We're going to have to establish some sort of a revenue source to adequately maintain our buildings as they age. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
I think that kind of answered it, but I'm just curious. You're adding all these new buildings on, and I know we only have $800,000 for Mr. Metting to use to keep our other buildings up to date, kind of playing off of what Supervisor Watson said. Is that something that should be higher so that he doesn't have to just keep trying to fix stuff that maybe should have been replaced?
Madam Chairman, we're going to have to call on, if pleases the chair, call on Steve Latowski to answer that question.
Okay, Mr. Latowski. I don't know why I can't say your name today, but I could yesterday and I will be able to tomorrow.
No worries. Madam Chairman, members of the board, the Public Works Department, through its Facilities Division, does put forth a operations and maintenance budget for our facilities. Now, this is absent of the Adult Detention Center because that is under its separate budget. But that is 5% less than the FY20 rate based on dollars per square foot. We're in at about $4.25 a square foot for the facilities, excluding the Adult Detention Center. Now, the Adult Detention Center is getting additional attention on the operations end, and that is with respect to a significant occurrence and an expected occurrence of unforeseen maintenance issues, namely attributed to the inmates. So we are programming some additional funds on that. But speaking to Supervisor Johnson's inquiry, we have, as County Manager Hendricks indicated, $800,000 to attend to necessary repairs or maintenance work that address very near-term priority building systems functions to keep those building systems sustainable, reliable, and operating. Could there be an additional investment into facilities? Yes. Staff has identified additional funding priorities. That would attend to more preventive maintenance schedules. So what we do need to accomplish and what the board is now considering is an adequate amount of funding to attend to the items of critical repair or maintenance that simply cannot be pushed forward anymore. It would be opportune to have additional funding to address preventive maintenance items so that they may not necessarily accelerate their service life expiration, so to speak. But nonetheless, we are hopeful that the board will support at least the level of funding that's presented, especially in the operations end as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I guess what scares me out of your statement is when we talk about doing critical things and not doing the things that maybe would keep things from getting to the critical position. I don't know, maybe if you'd look at, what you think, if you need more than 800,000, it's obviously up to the board, but at least bring to us what you think you need, and whether we approve it or not, it's up to us. That was all for Mr. Latowski on that question.
Okay. Anyone else?
Oh,
Go ahead, Supervisor Johnson.
thank you. Do we need to fund a county engineer? Or do we have somebody in staff that can take that position or willing to take that position now with the retirement of our county manager?
Mr. Hendricks?
Madam Chairman, if the person that the board selects as county manager is not an engineer, that designation would necessarily have to go, in my opinion, to the Public Works Director. And then you would subsequently make the Development Services Director, if he is an engineer and still working with us, a deputy county engineer. So Steve Latowski, my recommendation would be that Steve Latowski would have the designated title of county engineer, and the assistant county engineer would go to Tim Walsh. Currently, I'm the county engineer, and Steve and Tim were designated by the board as my assistants. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That answers that question. I have a question on the department heads. You're creating a new department for the assistant to the county manager.
I can try to address
that. Manager. Well, that was only part of the question. My question is, if that person, which now oversees the TV district, animal control, library, plus, assisting the manager in his duties, wouldn't we need to hire another assistant to the county manager, or either make that person a deputy county manager?
Madam Chairman, the reason that we were looking at elevating the assistant to the county manager to a director position was because of the reasons that Supervisor Johnson just expressed, that they are running a lot of different things. They are taking on, Yvonne's taking on additional responsibilities. The assistant to the county manager position could be looked at as an administration position, but it was never a deputy county manager position. And with me, if I I never requested a deputy, and I never wanted a deputy county manager position, even though Yvonne takes on a lot of the responsibilities of the administration office. But I believe to do the work that Yvonne does in the office and appropriately categorize it, she should be elevated to a director position and compensated accordingly. As for changing the structure of administration, I would hope the board would strongly consider waiting until they hire a county manager and have that be his decision. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, going back to our talking about the 2.5% raise for employees, I think when we did the hot jobs and those issues, I think there was a lot of employees that were left behind, and it was brought up before that, you know, we do have some people that are below the minimum wage. So I think now, while Supervisor Gould has brought up the economic problems we're in now, or the public's in now, during good times, our employees are usually less paid than the private sectors. And going back a couple of years, we were averaging about 16% turnover rate. Since this virus has started here in 2020, we're just a little over 5%, and I think that's because obviously we have jobs that are going to be there for the people. But as the economy gets better, I think our people will start falling behind. And the one thing is, if we compare our staffing to those of private sector, it's a little tough because we're really competing with the other counties. And while I can, you know, make an argument saying, you know, these jobs might pay too much, if we don't pay competitive prices, we're not going to get the people in. All of our people will be leaving for other counties. I think the last thing I have is I'm curious why the clerk of the board's pay raise was included in this county budget when most times that's up to the board to make that decision.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, I take responsibility for that. In discussion with, we tried to look at all department heads and all pseudo department heads and try to pinpoint those that were grossly underpaid. And in accordance with the rest of the clerks in the county, you know, I saw that Jenny was grossly underpaid. She's the lowest paid clerk in the state of Arizona, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And so when I approached her and told her that that's what I intended, she actually had quite a bit of pushback. But I believe that to be fair and to look at my other directors that I might have hired and lowballed when I hired them, or a previous manager lowballed them to get them to come to work with us. We made what we believed was a comprehensive list of those that needed adjustment, and I thought that even though I got pushback from the clerk's office, that it would be fair. And your statement that the board actually does that, yes, the board, you will be making that final decision. What I provided in front of you was just a recommendation. Thank you.
All right. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I think that should have been put on a separate agenda item by a board member to do that. And you've kind of heard our position by saying she's grossly underpaid. But those are the only questions I have right now, Madam Clerk.
Sorry.
Did you have anything else, Supervisor Johnson?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments in closing? Okay, I just want to thank my fellow supervisors, the elected officials, and all of the county employees for doing the work that they do every day and for holding this county together. I, for one, appreciate all the efforts that everybody makes, and look forward to going through this budget process another time. So with that, I will adjourn. Thank you.